Hey everyone, it's Rob B here with Rob D, and you are listening to the Property Podcast. Now, it's a tricky market right now, a tricky market to do deals. We'll talk about our experiences of that, but more importantly, we're going to get into tactics on how you can get yourself a great deal in this market. We've got some basic tactics and some advanced strategies.
Welcome to the Property Podcast, where we take time out from the business of doing hundreds of property transactions a year for our clients and bring you some of the knowledge that we've gained along the way for free. Now, deals, of course, are at the heart of property investment. You need to be able to access strong deals. So this is going to be such a valuable episode because we're going to be teaching you some tricks I'm sure you won't have thought about for doing exactly that. And we do our best to bring the value every week. So do make sure you're following the show on your favourite podcasting app because we've got some great episodes coming up. On Apple Podcasts, hit the little plus button, hit follow on Spotify, get every episode of the Property Podcast sent straight to your phone.
Now it's time for our news story of the week, and it's not a nice one, I'm afraid. The headline reads, phone and online copycat scams now make up a third of money fraud. This is from This Is Money, and the reason we're bringing this story to your attention is because we have been exposed to this as well. So part of the scams are people pretending to be influencers, making accounts that look identical to the influencer that you may be interested in, and then changing the name by the slightest amount and then contacting you by a DM to say, hey, how are you doing? And then eventually offering you an investment. I can't believe that it's that bad that now it's a third of all money fraud. It's terrifying. And Rob and I have been impersonated on our social accounts, and people have been contacted. And the intention of the scammer is to offer you some sort of investment, take your money and then disappear. So the real accounts on Instagram that Rob and I have are the Rob Dicks and Rob_Bence. They're real. When I was impersonated, the scammer put a dot in the name. So instead of Rob_Bence, it was Rob._Bence. It was so hard to see that it was easy to impersonate. And to be honest, their profile, they put a lot of effort in. They were doing better than me. So we bring this to your attention to let you know that Rob and I will never, ever DM you offering you an investment. That's just something we would never, ever do. So if it happens to you, please be aware and report them. Instagram have done a terrible job of shutting these people down. We reported the scammers multiple times and their account stayed live for far, far too long. And of course, it's not just limited to Rob and I. This happens with many, many financial influencers because they know you're interested in investment. So do be careful, do be aware. I'm only active on Instagram and LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, you can just search for my name. Same with Rob. Rob's active on Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn. So they are the only places that we will post on social. And we will never, ever DM you an investment. And if anyone DMs you an investment opportunity, just block it straight away. That is not how you want to access your investment opportunities. And the chances are they're all scams.
If you've glanced at the front page of any newspaper website over the last, year? Then you would be forgiven for thinking that the property market was in free fall. And as an investor, conditions are perfect for you to swoop in and do some phenomenal deals from sellers who are desperate to offload their properties at any price before they fall even further. The reality, though, is a little bit different. As you'll have found if you're in buying mode at the moment, it's actually surprisingly difficult to get a deal right now. In this episode, we're going to be explaining why that's the case. And we're also going to be, more importantly, talking about ways you can get a deal in the current market that you may not have thought of. And Rob, we're having to reach deep into our toolbox for Property Hub Invest at the moment because we're not immune from these challenges.
Yeah, this is a really interesting market. Like you said, Rob, you'd be forgiven for thinking, well, market softens, more deals available. And I'll be honest, that's what I expected because that's what tends to happen. But I think this is different because the market isn't collapsing, as you've said. It's just slowed down a bit. And because of that, everyone's just seeming to sit tight. And that's lovely for all those people, but it's not so lovely if you want to keep expanding your portfolio because you believe in property over the long term, which pretty much everyone listening to this does. So it's been a real slog for Property Hub Invest, and we've not been able to launch as many deals this year as we want to. Now, of course, we can launch deals. You could launch one every day of the week if we wanted to. It's not hard to get an offer accepted, but it's just hard to get a really strong deal right now. So I thought this episode would be interesting for a couple of reasons. One, to give people that insight. So if they are also struggling, they realize that they're not alone. But secondly, and I think more importantly, give people some tools to use and some tactics to use to be able to go and source not just a decent deal, but a great deal. Some of these we've talked about before, and some of them we've never talked about before, because what we're going to talk about today is how to operate in this type of market. And you do operate differently depending on how the market is performing. So now we understand it's a bit of a tricky, unusual market. How do we get those deals? Well, of course, you can use a company like Property Hub Invest, but this wouldn't be much of a podcast if we just left it there. So I'm not going to talk too much about that, but you can check out propertyhub.net/invest if you want to find out more about what we do. But on this podcast, we give away all the knowledge for free. And we're going to give you some of the tips and tricks that we use, starting with moving quickly. So if you come across a good or great deal in this market, move quickly, because as we said, there's not many of them out there, and moving quickly will put you at an advantage. So once you've got to a price that you're happy with, don't hold back. Make sure you're ready for your purchase. So don't find a deal and then go off to find a broker and a solicitor. Make sure they're all lined up. Make sure that you've got a decision in principle from your broker. You may change your product, but it just shows to any potential seller that you're serious about what you're doing and that you are ready to move. Giving the seller confidence that you're someone who can move quickly and get this deal done could be the difference of you getting a deal or not. It's such a basic thing, but so many people don't do it. So the first tip is moving quickly.
Yes, some deals require speed and others don't. So at Property Hub Invest, we've got deals that we've been working on for over a year, but we also had one just the other week that came to us out of nowhere because a previous transaction had fallen through, and we only got the deal because we were able to demonstrate that we and our clients could move quickly. So it happens at all levels. The trick, of course, is to position yourself in such a way that you know about these opportunities when they come up in the first place. So we've got a really strong network around the country that tips us off about these things. And long term, that, of course, is the best way to find out about opportunities. But if you don't have that right now, then what you can do is just make sure you do the basic step of having your Rightmove alerts set up. So what I've found is the trick with Rightmove alerts, same on Zoopla as well, is to get your criteria right. So everything that comes up is relevant. Because if you just keep getting emails all the time with properties that aren't suitable, you'll find that you just end up skipping over them and you'll miss out on the odd gem that is in there. So set up the right criteria in terms of price, size, property type, and area. On Rightmove and Zoopla, you can draw a search area and only get alerts for properties that fall within that area. That's something that I do a lot because I've often got a very specific area that I'm interested in that isn't mapped directly to like a postcode. So if you do that, so basically everything that comes up could be of interest to you, then you won't get overwhelmed if you set up instant alerts, or at the least once every 24 hours. Then you're finding out about opportunities as soon as they pop up. And it will show you not only new listings, but also reductions. And reductions can be great as well, because if someone's reducing the price, that means that they're serious about selling. So as soon as one of those hits your inbox, you can get on the phone, find out what it's all about.
Another way to move quickly, of course, is to use cash. Now, I appreciate not everyone is in this position, but if you are a cash buyer, then that is a way to build a lot of confidence with any particular vendor. Having the ability to just close so quickly with cash will put you at a real advantage in this type of market. Now, remember, this is all about getting a great deal. So don't go and buy cash for something that's average. It's holding out for when you see the great deal. But then when you see it, pounce on it, and if you can, then use cash. Now, you might be thinking, well, Rob, you always talk about leverage and how important it is. And absolutely that is the case. My advice would then be to refinance 6 or 12 months later. And actually, one of the advantages of doing that is if, for example, you're looking at a new build, when you come to refinance it 6, 12 months later, it'll be classed as second-hand. Then the amount of mortgages available to you will increase, potentially meaning that you could get a better deal. Now, when you come to get a mortgage for a new build property, you have options available to you, but the pool of lenders that you can access is smaller than the main market because only so many lenders lend on new build. Now, don't panic, there are lots of options, but there are just more options when it comes to second-hand property. So using cash and then converting to a leverage model is something that can work quite well. And remember, mortgages are quite tricky right now. So we're finding that they are requiring a lot more information. Not that they were ever light on that, but they're just moving slowly. And also rates are moving up and down. Now, at the moment, as we record this, they have settled. And that's great. And rates are falling, which is awesome. But over the last 6 to 12 months, it's been a bit of a minefield. So if you are going to use a mortgage, make sure that you have that decision in principle. Make sure that you're using a broker who's experienced with buy-to-let, because they could be the difference of making your deal happen or not. Property Hub Select is brand new, but we are loving the feedback that we're getting already. Join us for in-person exclusive events, online masterclasses, and so much more. If you want to join Property Hub Select, then all you have to do is become a client of one of our services, and they are great services. So go to propertyhub.net/select to find out more.
So those are the basics, and they are important. But if all you're doing is the basics, then you're just fishing in the same pond as everyone else. And if you really want to dig deeper to get a deal, there are other actions you can take. One of those is going direct to vendor. In other words, approaching people who aren't advertising their property for sale. So if you've got a clearly defined area and property type that you're interested in, you can literally put letters through letterboxes saying, if you're thinking about selling, I'm interested in buying your property. And the advantage of this approach is that in the current market, everyone knows that the property market is not exactly flying at the moment. Everyone knows about the pressures. So there are plenty of people who might like to sell, but they're not confident enough to put their property on the market. But if they then get someone come to them, especially if they're able to say things like, I'm a cash buyer, I'm a professional, I can move fast, then that may get their attention. Now, of course, this is not a perfect system, not least because if the property that you're interested in is currently rented out, it's unlikely that your letter will actually find its way to the owner. So it is very much a numbers game. This is not something where you can do 10 letters and hope one of them comes off. We're more in the realms of hundreds or thousands of letters. But if you're serious about getting a deal, this is a potential way of unlocking opportunities before they come to market or that were never going to come to market. And the bonus about doing that is you're not going to get into a bidding war because you're going to be the only one who knows about it.
But if you love that advanced strategy, we have another one for you, and I love this one. This is Rob D's idea, can't take credit for it, which is hitting up letting agents. So most people will understandably go and deal with estate agents, but there are landlords exiting the market now. It's been documented. So if landlords are exiting the market, who looks after their properties? Well, if they're not self-managing, it'll be a letting agent. So hitting up letting agents in the areas you're interested in is an advanced tactic that you could use because they're not going to be inundated with requests for purchases right now, but they will be motivated to deal with you if they think they're going to lose one of the properties on their books because the landlord is selling and because they may be selling it to an owner-occupier. Whereas if they sell it to you, they can get that business from you and make that very clear that if they come to you with any deals, you will use them as your letting agent. So look at the areas that you're interested in and spend that time to develop the relationships with those letting agents, and it will pay dividends. I love this tactic. It's such a clever idea that the vast majority will not be doing. So try that one. And another advanced strategy that most people won't entertain or even think of is buying in bulk. So this is something we do in Property Hub Invest to get a better deal. If you go to a landlord who's selling a portfolio or a developer and say, right, I'm going to take 4 off you, well, then you might get yourself a better deal. I'd expect to get a better deal if I was going to take 4, so negotiate harder by taking more from them. Now, you may not be in a financial position where you can just go and buy 4 properties at once, but if you know other investors, then you can come together as a pool and get yourself a better deal. That is something worth doing, is building your network, getting to know other property investors. And you will then be more popular with those investors if you can source deals like this. If you want, you can charge a fee. Personally, I'd be looking for the goodwill, but it's up to you. But you finding these deals will be like gold dust, as we talked about. So you may, in this type of market, be able to find a group of other investors that allows you to negotiate in bulk.
And something that's important to keep in mind about all these methods is that hard work and perseverance pay off. So if you're sitting there thinking, right for you, I wish I had a network of people who brought deals to me, then you can. You just can't have that right now. We have it at Property Hub Invest because we've been building it for over a decade. But you have to start at some point, and that time might as well be now. It'd be great if you called up one letting agent and then they said, oh yeah, we've got all these opportunities. We're just waiting for someone to ask. And that might happen, but it's more likely that they won't right now. But that will happen in time if you nurture the relationship. It might be that you'll do a deal with them and that will give you the confidence to introduce you to someone else. This is how it works. It takes time. but it's well worth starting the process. It may well be that if you start that process today, it'll get you results within the next year. It's entirely possible because the market that we're in now isn't going to switch overnight. We're not going to go back into a boom, into a red hot market within the next year. Famous last words, you shouldn't make predictions, but there will be opportunities for a while, so it could pay off now. But if not, maybe it'll pay off in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. So if you're in property for the long term, which is the only way to be in property, if you ask me, it is well worth taking those actions today that are going to pay off when you most need them in the future.
Right, it's time for Hub Extra, that part of the show where we wanted to deliver even more value to you. And this week, I'm loving it because it looks like it's AI related. Rob, what have you got for us?
Yeah, Hub Extra this week comes courtesy of my friend Max, who shared in a group chat a link to instructions for hooking up ChatGPT to Siri. It's actually really simple, and it allows you to, rather than going onto the ChatGPT website and typing everything in, it allows you to have natural conversations with it. And you can use this for all kinds of purposes, but the one that I really liked that he said he was using it for was reading out stories to his children. So you could get it started on a story, and then the child can say, "Hey Siri, make Spider-Man come along and do such and such," and then it will carry on the story. And he said he was doing this on long drives and effectively outsourced entertaining his children to ChatGPT, which is awesome. So you can use it for other purposes as well. In the show notes, I'll link to a topic on Reddit that tells you exactly how to do it. But I love this, Rob, because it just gets you into the habit of using AI more in your everyday life. And the more you use it, the more you'll find ways it can benefit you.
Yeah, it's worth spending the time on, no matter what you do in life. So, of course, you can have a property angle to this and use AI to help you with your property endeavours. And you'll be pleased to hear that we've done a podcast on that and a YouTube video. So go back through the archives of both and you can either listen or watch. But you can use it pretty much for any part of your life, whether it's entertaining your children on long drives or helping out with what you do for a living. The possibilities really are endless, and it will come down to you and your imagination, or your willingness to put some effort in, as we talked about in this episode already, and do the extra bit of work that others aren't willing to do by looking at blogs, by signing up to newsletters, and actually consuming the content and the information there. The link to this clever hack that Rob's talked about is in the show notes, and a step-by-step guide on how to set it up is there as well. I'll certainly be getting stuck in and checking this out.
So that is us done for this week. Thank you for listening. I hope you use some of these tips to go out and get yourself a great deal in this market. We will, of course, be in the Sunday Times on Sunday. We've got Ask Rob and Rob on Tuesday. And then we will be back here again with a property podcast next Thursday. So until we see you next, have a great week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.